Okay, welcome to our succulent video. So we are going to be drawing one of these plants that kind of come out from the center, and if you notice, the leaves kind of get bigger. So this triangle isn't quite as big as this triangle. This is smaller, bigger, might be a little bit bigger there as well. So what we're going to do is, well, we're working on something else too. We're working on stippling. So let me mention that right now. So what we've done when we're looking at value is we've done pressing hard to pressing lighter, right? Press very hard. This is just regular pencil. We've been using colored pencil. Press a little bit lighter, press very light to get different values. Another way you can do value is with something called stippling. And stippling means like making these little dots on your paper. And the more dots you add, the darker the value becomes. We're going to try stippling in this project, and it's very, very tiring, but it's a really cool effect. And I've seen some really, really nice ones out of middle school in the past. So we're going to give it a whirl. What I want you to do in order to draw this is kind of find the center of your paper. And if you have your own way of drawing these, you don't have to do it this way, but I'm going to walk you kind of through it, a way to do it. So I'm just going to put a dot there. I'm actually going to make a cross or an X in the center. And I'm going to use that to make my first 4 petals. I'm actually going to just make those into 4 petals, a little bit small. I don't want them to be too small. I'm realizing they're kind of small. So maybe I'll erase these two and make them a little bit bigger. And that's why we draw light, right? So that we can erase without it showing up later. Okay, so now I have 4, and I'm not trying to make them exactly the same because this is a plant. They're not going to look exactly the same all the time. It's nature. But now what I'm going to do is try to make my next row of petals a little bit bigger, and I'm going to come between these two. And I'm going to put one here. And between these two, put one here. And I've got the same thing again. Now I'm going to turn and come between these. And I want to get bigger. I really want to get bigger because I'm going to try to fill my paper. So it's okay if I start to get, that time I think that row's done. That's, each one kind of has 4 on it. And I'm going to come back in here again. Now if you say, well, maybe I don't want just 4, I want to add a little more, you can. You don't have to stick to that. But that's a nice way of just knowing that it's kind of all getting bigger at the same time, as if I just stick with that. Kind of this one is going to line up with my first row, right? And now back between these two, getting bigger and bigger. So I'm going to quiet and finish this up. All right, so at this point I can decide, do I want to put, one more row in there? Or do I think that's kind of big enough? I think I'm just going to take it right off the page for the most part. All right, so I have my flower pulling out from the center, and I'm going to add, the next thing I'm going to do is actually going to outline it with permanent marker. That's step 2, and then we're going to add the stippling. I'm going to pause it. Okay, so what I've done is outline in permanent marker, but I've also gone through and tried to erase out a lot of those pencil lines so those won't show up later. We're going to use watercolor, and watercolor should be transparent, which means you should be able to see through it. So I don't want those pencil lines to show up later. All right, so now I have a pen, just a regular old pen, and I'm going to kind of start out here, but where one petal starts, I'm going to add some stippling. So some little dots up here where this petal begins. This petal here. So each petal, so it's a patient process, it's getting a little bit of stippling. It's kind of like this is the shadow, and it's going to be as light as possible up there. If I really wanted to get into it, I would put the most dots right by there and then kind of coming out with just a little bit of dots, right? So the most dots would be really close to the next petal, and then just a little bit less and a little bit less as I stipple out. I'm going to do this for every single leaf, even these in the center here. I just didn't start there. And here. So you can kind of see how it starts to shade out nice. And every single petal, I guess I should say petal, not leaf, right, is going to have some stippling. On these bigger ones, it's going to take me longer. They're going to need a more stippling to get that shaded effect. Back on this picture, you can see that shaded effect. Very light, medium value, getting darker, very dark value here. So we're just adding some of that very dark value in before we paint with our pen. I think I'm going to not paint this one. I think I'm going to not demonstrate the painting part because this paper that I happen to grab to show you this isn't great painting paper. So I'm going to make sure you guys have better paper for painting than this is so that they'll look awesome when you're done. But be patient with yourself. Take your time with the stippling. Make sure all the petals have it. That's it.